Alright, welcome back to the channel. It's switching gears a little bit today. Moving away from guns and hunting and all that stuff. Got a call from one of my buddies who just secured access to a creek that runs down out of an old gold mine. So I had to pull out the old USS making fat stacks. And we are going to hit this creek and see if we could pull some gold out of there. So I thought I'd make a video and show you my homemade gold dredge. Give you some tips and techniques if you're thinking about how to make a gold dredge. This thing has sucked some gold out of the ground already. And I think I'm going to just throw it together and go over and make sure everything's good. I haven't used it in a while. I'm really looking forward to taking this bad boy out again and scooping up some of that gold. So stick around. I'll go over my homemade gold dredge and maybe teach you how to get something like this, get some ideas from my gold dredge, and maybe be able to make one of your own. Learned a lot building this thing, so stick around. So this is my gold dredge. The USS making fat stacks. So a little history on this. I moved down here to South Carolina in the what's called the Slate Belt, and allegedly there's gold in just about every creek around here. And I happen to have a creek on my property, and I was just like, you know what, I'm going to find out if there is gold in that creek. So I set about to make a dredge. I did some panning. I found a little bit of gold, and I said, you know what? I'm making a dredge. So, to be honest, I went into this with absolutely no knowledge whatsoever of gold mining or building a dredge. I went into it blind. I didn't know what the finished product was going to look like, how heavy it was, how stable it was going to need to be. Any of that stuff. And I said, you know, I'm just going to go at it. And that's basically what I did. I said, I'll build it and beef it as I go. And if I have to balance it or anything like that, whatever obstacle I come across as I build it, I will, I'll just deal with that as it comes. So my first idea, which as ignorant as it was, I thought I would be able to use like PVC pipes, seal them off, use them as flotation and stuff like that. And I very quickly learned that these things are barely neutrally buoyant. And I mean, I should have known going into it, being a scuba diver and stuff like that, that when it comes to like the weight of your tanks with the air in it, these things would actually be more buoyant if you suck the air out of them, created a vacuum in there, than having air in them. They will float, but they're not going to support any because of their own weight. So I learned that part really quick, and then I knew I was going to have to get some pontoons. And looking at pontoons, it was very obvious that pontoons were very expensive. So the first obstacle that I had to come up with was pontoons. So I decided to leave these 4-inch PVC pipes as some rigidity, some stabilization, something very strong to mount everything to, and it kind of worked out well, but you don't really need these PVC. They're extra heavy for what stability and rigidity they're providing. So, but the base itself, without the motor on it, just the pontoons, the PVC, and the aluminum framing that I have on there is extremely light. You can just carry it with one hand. So my first big breakthrough, pontoons are very expensive. I was trying to make this as cheap as possible. And I came up with an idea to make my own pontoons. And what I came up with was a big sheet of insulation board, 2-inch thick insulation board. One sheet, $20. I was able to cut these into 8 inches across, 2 inches thick. I stacked 4 of them up and glued them together. cut them with a pipe, with a, not a pipe, what do you call it? I made a heat knife. It connected to a battery with a piece of wire, and you can just run it right through and cut them. And I cut them to size, and I was like just even guessing on how long these were going to be. And I decided on my width to make sure it was going to fit in the back of my Ranger so I can carry it around wherever I go. The pontoons worked out great. I needed a little extra flotation, so underneath I put a little extra piece underneath, as you can see down there, in both front and back. So if you make your pontoons and you need more flotation, you can always add another layer. And I was able to make these two pontoons. I used the aluminum to strap it across. I made a motor mount on top and this is a Honda 5.5, and I'll tell you, this thing kicks. It just has to idle, and it runs hard enough. I found this, what do they call it, a waste pump. I went to the junkyard. It has a crack in it, but it's okay if it leaks a little bit, as long as it still can pump water. And I just took some JB Weld, and it had a little crack, and I covered that over, and it works great for my purposes, just for this dredge. So, and I think I ended up getting that pump right there for like 20 bucks or something. So, and I happen to have this motor, this Honda motor, so that didn't cost me any money. But so that's how I got the frame together. And you can see the pontoons work great. I mean, there's enough flotation in these pontoons for me to stand on it. Not with the motor on it and everything. I could stand on there and it'll float me. So that is the frame of itself right there. So the next thing to note on a gold dredge like this, you have your waste pump like this that sucks in water. And a lot of people don't realize this, but this pump, you don't suck dirt through the pump. The pump only sucks water, clean water. You want to have your water intake just coming in from the side, and it creates suction by use of what's called a Venturi jet. So a Venturi jet, now you could buy these, and again, I said, you know what, I'm going to make my own. How a Venturi jet works is, so you have your pump, and your pump is sucking water in here, okay, and then it is sending water out this way, and it's going to go into this pipe. And now this is a 2-inch pipe. I have it going down to, I'm sorry, this is a 1.5-inch pipe, 1.5 inch, and it goes 1.5 inch. Then it reduces down to 1.25 inch to create more of a jet, and then even more of a jet as it comes down into this main pipe, okay? Now your hose to suck up dirt would come out this way, will come out the back, and this would lead into your sluice box. So what happens is water comes out of the pump at high pressure, comes down to here, it gets reduced in size, and it gets even more high pressure. And as that water comes this way and goes towards the sluice box, and it passes this opening right here, and now this is a 22-degree angle. What happens is that water, as it passes this line right here, it goes this way, it begins to suck the air or whatever's in this pipe water. It takes it with it this way, which creates a vacuum in here, because as it grabs it and starts taking it with it, it starts taking everything from this, and it creates a huge suction. I mean, enough you pick up giant rocks. I mean, you could barely get them off the end of the nozzle. That's how much suction it creates. So it sucks the dirt through this hose and goes with it and blows out through your sluice box. So that's a Venturi jet, and that's how that works. Like I said, I went into this completely ignorant, and this was something that I learned, how a sluice box works. And this works great. Like I said, I mean, I have to put a grate over the nozzle because it'll suck up too big of rocks. It'll suck rocks into, it sucks up everything. The amount of suction that it creates is unbelievable. And I just run this motor at idle. So my pontoons were my first innovation, making those very cheap. For 20 bucks, I made 2 pontoons. This was some PVC, cutting it, getting the angle right, sanding it down, and then using JB Weld and really putting that all together, and it is held up unbelievably. I thought I would have to put a strap across here or something just to make sure, but it has really held up. So this is my next innovation for my dredge, and it works great. So the next step in my project was a sluice box. So we'll move over to that right now. Okay, so before we move on, I just put this together so you could see it a little bit better. I put my Venturi jet on, and as you can see, I have my hoses here. The hose comes off here, goes into the water, and I have a cage that goes on there so it doesn't suck up any debris or anything like that. So it sucks the water in, comes out, reduces down, goes through the Venturi jet and into the sluice box. And there's my sluice box right there. It sits on the front of the dredge. And your suction hose connects onto here with another one of these fittings like this. And that hose is what you suck up all the gold and the dirt with. That goes out that way. So that's how that looks. My next, I don't know what you want to call it, obstacle, was making a sluice box. So this thing's all dirty, but as you can see underneath, this is my sluice box, and it's got a little flare nozzle on there, and I got that flare nozzle from an old leaf blower, and it flares out underneath, flares out, blows the water in there, and it's kind of caught right now. That's not how it's supposed to be, but it goes all the way in the back like that of the crash box. Okay, so it goes in the back and it flares that water out like that. So I actually made this box, this sluice box. I made it myself. I had some this was an old light fixture, fluorescent light fixture, and this was the cover of it, and I hammered it out into a box shape, and then took some tin and riveted it on to make a crash box on the top, cut out the back hole here for this to fit in, and I made this into a sluice box, and it's about a foot across, maybe 10 inches across, and a few feet long. And I just took some steel. Now to make my riffles, and some L channel, and I riveted these on there. And this is just aluminum. So you can look it up, and they'll tell you what angles and stuff your riffles should be at, what this side angle should be going underneath in there. So I looked at those, and I started out with that. And when I was using this in the creek, I found that I was catching a lot of little lead BBs from shotgun shells. And the BBs were all catching, now that's lead, behind a certain riffle at a certain angle. Now I had all these set up at different angles, and because I was testing it, and I was always catching the heavier lead BBs behind a certain one of these that was at an angle. So I set them all to that same angle, and I started catching a heck of a lot more BBs, lead BBs, and then I started catching gold behind the riffles as well. So I do know that my angle of riffle really works. Now, I put this chicken wire or whatever, it's got that diamond, so these are each individual riffles that catches really fine gold, and I just put a carpet underneath it. So when I'm done dredging, I just have to take out this and this, and then the whole riffles come out. All the riffle, these L's, these come out, the riffles come out, then the wire comes out, then the carpet comes out, and I can spray it all down and do a cleanup and clean it all out. So I do know it works. So, but that is basically the entire making fat stacks. So, and it definitely works. Now it comes down into several different pieces. I had to take the motor off. It's only 4 bolts that hold the motor onto the frame. So, and these are all quick disconnects, just a screwdriver. I can take the hoses off, take this off. Once this is disconnected, the whole sluice box comes off, just slides right out. And then I can lift the motor off, carry that by itself. The frame itself, the dredge itself, it's extremely light. So I can usually, if I have a little cart, I can make it in one trip wherever I'm going to, but usually 2 or 3 trips I can carry everything, the frame. The motor I got to carry by itself because that's pretty damn heavy. So I carry the frame, the motor, and then I can carry all the hoses in the sluice box by itself. If I have to carry it any distance whatsoever, I like to be able to just pull the Ranger right up to the side of the creek and dump it right in there whenever that's possible. So that is the USS making fat stacks. And hopefully in the next couple days here, I'll have a video of this thing in action, and hopefully we'll have some gold in the pan. So if you want to see this thing in action and see how much gold we found, if it worked and all that good stuff, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell if you want to. This way you'll know when that video comes up. But definitely subscribe if you want to see this thing in action and see it working, because I'm going to have that video up in a few days. Hopefully a few days. We'll see how long it takes for these creeks to go down. But it's going to be soon here because we're loaded up and ready to go. So as soon as we're able to go. So hit that subscribe button so you can see how the USS Fat Stacks makes out.